Australian man who ate nothing but potatoes for an entire year has lost more than 100 pounds.
I found out about Andrew Taylor from one of the Dr. McDougall's lectures. The fact that he ate only tubers for a whole year impressed me quite a lot. Just like the rest of the world. I couldn't imagine the level of the mental self-work someone has to do to be able to stick to such a regimen of deprivation, especially in the environment of abundance. Helping people change their habits and lifestyle, I know how difficult it can be. We are the creatures of our habits, attached to our own comfort zones. And our favorite food is the first comfort resort. I wanted to meet Andrew, who lives on the other end of the world, and ask him all my hows, whys, and whats. Thanks to modern technology, I was able to do it. Welcome to the Health Wave. Imagine you have to eat only potatoes for an entire year. What do you think would happen to you? Well, I know, you're probably thinking, and why would I have to do this in the first place? I mean, and this is logical, you're right. But let's pretend, hypothetically. Do you even think you would be able to keep up with your decision, stick to your decision? Well, not an easy thing to do. I want you to meet my special guest, someone who made this decision and who stuck with this completely for an entire year, Andrew Taylor, who is 14 hours away from me in Melbourne, Australia. In 2016, he impressed or literally shocked the entire world with his outrageous commitment, eating potatoes only for an entire year. Hi, Andrew.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you for doing this with me. I'm so fascinated with the whole story.
Yeah, well, it's a weird story, and it got a bit of attention, back when I did it, and yeah, it's become a big part of my life now. So, thank you for having me.
I watched your interview with the Australian television when you publicly ate your first meal that's not potatoes only. And you said that it had been nothing but potatoes for a year and that it had been an incredible journey for you. So I was surprised because many people, I watched some videos on YouTube, many people tried a potato diet for like 2 weeks and they got so bored and so sick and tired of it. And you said it was incredible. Well, I'm sure you must have gotten tired or sick of it at some point.
Yeah, well, the first 2 weeks were the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And yeah, of course I got bored. That's sort of the point, that I spent such a big part of my life relying on food as a source of comfort and enjoyment and emotional support, and making it such a big central part of my day, and that food was a big feature of my life, and the overall the net effect of that was a negative one. I was having a good time while I was actually eating, but then the effect that was having on the rest of my life was overwhelmingly negative. So why not go through a little bit of boredom in one area of your life to just absolutely knock everything else out of the park, and just if we stop relying on food to make that a huge part of our lives, and getting our entertainment, enjoyment, comfort, emotional support from food, what happens to the rest of your life is incredible. So that first 2 weeks was really hard, and yes, I got very, very bored with potatoes, but after a little while, I settled into a rhythm, and I accepted the position I was in, and I just moved on and lived my life. And I came up with this saying around that time, and I say, make your food boring and your life interesting. So, we focus so much on small parts of our lives and segmenting. I have to enjoy my food here, and I have to enjoy my marriage here, and I have to enjoy my job here, and I have to enjoy this and this and this. They're never separate. Life is a whole. It doesn't act in little tiny parts. So maybe you can sacrifice a little bit of enjoyment over here to get a huge bit of enjoyment in the rest of your life.
That's a good way to look at it.
Well, boring food. So what? The rest of my life was incredible.
That's great. That's a great attitude. Well, let me begin by asking you first, why did you do this?
Well, it was a food addiction thing. I tried everything over the last couple of decades. I tried lots and lots of different diets, and I was really good at losing a little bit of weight and then gaining it all back plus more. So I realized at one point that my behavior with food mirrored that of an alcoholic. So we've all probably known at one point an alcoholic or a drug addict or a cigarette smoker who does really well for a short period of time, and avoids alcohol for a week, a month, whatever, a year, and then at some point they say, "Oh, it's a special occasion. I'm gonna have one beer, and then I'll go back to being sober tomorrow." And sure enough, one beer leads to eventually full-on alcoholism again. So that was pretty much the way my relationship with food worked. And when I realized that, I thought, well, if the problem is the same, maybe the treatment should be the same. And if an alcoholic should quit alcohol, then why not? Why shouldn't a food addict quit food? So you can't obviously quit food entirely. So I decided to try to get as close as I possibly could to quitting food, and that was to quit everything except one. And
this was my next question. I wanted to know, why specifically just this mono diet? Why like a deprivation diet? How did you arrive to this decision? Why potatoes?
Well, potatoes had the most scientific and historical evidence behind them. So the obvious place to start is that the Irish population thrived, not just survived, but thrived off a diet that was almost entirely potatoes. They did really well for a couple of centuries eating that way, went through a population boom and were in excellent health and strength and fitness. You can look at the Okinawan diet, which was almost entirely sweet potatoes traditionally. There's Papua New Guinean Highlanders that live to this day on a diet of almost only sweet potatoes. There are other parts of the world that have, other populations that have lived on potatoes. There are studies of people that have lived on only potatoes. There was a study in the 1920s of a Polish marathon running couple who ate only potatoes for 6 months and ran personal best marathons at the end of it. There's a lot of scientific evidence plus a lot of historical evidence that suggested that potatoes were the best choice for this. It was once I spent a lot of time, and I have a science degree myself, so that helps me with reading studies and interpreting data and study design and all that sort of stuff, and just basically doing research. So a couple of maybe 6 weeks of really intensive research on my part. It was an obvious choice in the end.
I see. But let me ask you the truth. Did you even want to create a media sensation? Was it even an intention?
No, I didn't think it would have any impact on the media whatsoever. I thought eating only potatoes is the most boring thing a person could do. I had no idea that it would be such a big thing. And really the whole media side of things only came about by accident. It was not something I planned, and it was just happened by accident. So that was not part of my plan at all.
So you did attract a lot of attention.
It was mind blowing to me. It's a story in itself of how that all happened. But it was. Looking back on it, I understand now why people were so interested and why it got so much attention all around the world. But at the time, I thought it was the most boring thing possible, and I didn't imagine that anyone would want to follow it or anything.
Now, was it your intention to continue eating plant-based after you finished this year? From the beginning, you wanted to do that, or this idea came later?
No, it was always that was the idea from the beginning. I had tried eating whole food plant-based before that, and it was another thing that I was good at sticking with for a short amount of time and losing a bit of weight and then putting all the weight back on. So I knew that whole food plant-based eating was the way forward, and that was always my aim, and I had tried it several times and not been able to stick with it. So my aim from the beginning was to, first of all, break my food addiction, which I realized that was the problem. That was why I wasn't able to stick with any of the diets that I tried. So, yeah, the first idea was to change my relationship with food, break the addiction to food that I'd been suffering, and then once that was dealt with, then go to whole food plant-based eating and make that my way of life, and that's what I do now.
Did you have a companion or did you just do it by yourself?
Sorry, say that again.
Did you have a companion, someone that went into this with you, or you just did it all by yourself?
No, just all by myself. Yeah, I lived with my wife and I had a 2-year-old son at the time, but yeah, they were there with me for the experience, but they didn't do it with me. They just kept on eating their own way that they wanted to eat, and yeah, I just did it myself. Yeah.
You mean that there were other foods in the house, and you were able? And you were able to keep strong.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't want to ask my family to change and eat only potatoes with me. That was not a reasonable thing for me to do, in my opinion. It's not about them; it was about me, and so I wanted to change, and I didn't want to force that change on anyone else. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, they just ate whatever they felt like eating, and all the same they still do. It's like, yeah.
Did you feel famished at any point of your diet?
No. I ate a lot of food. I never went hungry. The real point of it was not to go hungry. Mm-hmm. So no, I never. No, I always ate as much as I felt like whenever I felt like it, and that was a lot of food. That was like up to 9 pounds a day, sometimes wow. More. Yeah.
Okay, great. So how was your social life? It's a whole year. I understand you must have done something about it.
Yeah, I still went out for dinner and I went to friends' places and yeah, all the normal stuff. It didn't really affect my social life. Restaurants have potatoes, so I just called ahead and asked for plain potatoes, and it was fine. And sometimes I went to restaurants on the spur of the moment and they made me potatoes, and I went to friends' places and they cooked me potatoes. I had one restaurant for the whole year where we went out and they refused to make me potatoes, so I just sat at the table and had a drink and talked to everyone and had a nice time, and then I ate potatoes afterwards.
You socialized, but you never broke your dietary commitment.
No, not once. I didn't even lick a spoon that had something else on it.
What was the outcome? You lost weight. How much weight?
Yeah, well, the main thing was that I dealt with my food addiction. That was the focus from the start, and I no longer, it's not a huge issue in my life like it was. So, my relationship with food is totally different to what it was now, and it's, food is something that I use to fuel my life and help me do the things that I want to do every day, so that's a totally different sort of outlook to what it was before. And then, the bonus on top of that is that I lost over 120 pounds, mm-hmm. and I normalized a lot of blood health markers, and I was able to get fit again. And yeah, there's a lot of positives out of this, and no real negatives that I can think of.
What was the most challenging for you during that year?
That first 2 weeks was the hardest thing, for sure. Just dealing with cravings and dealing with my mind trying to play tricks on me the whole time, and it was just a very high pressure thing for me to go from the way I was eating into eating only potatoes. It was a very hard. It's just a very, very hard thing to do. There's not really any other way for me to describe it. It was really, really difficult and challenging. But pressure creates diamonds, and
right.
I was better off for doing that, for putting myself through that. Yeah.
But once you were past this 2-week period, you were fine. Never wanted to quit. Never wanted to stop.
No, it was. I wouldn't say I was fine. I still had times where eating potatoes was not so great, but really, the first 2 weeks was hard, and then after that, I just was in a groove and just, had an occasional moment where I would want to eat something else, but nothing serious. Just a little bit of self-talk, and away we go.
So do you think that it takes a strong person to do that?
No.
Anyone can do it?
Anyone. If I was I get this all the time that people say they wish they could do it, but they don't have the willpower, or they're not strong enough, or whatever. If I had willpower, I would never have got to the point where I needed to do this. I would have been able to stick with one of the other diets that I tried. I tried 100 different things, and none of them worked. And if it was all about willpower, then I would have stuck with one of those things. If it was all about strength of mind and strength of character, then I would have made it work on one of the other 100 things that I tried. So, no, this is not about willpower or strength or stamina. It's about removing the need for those things. If you want ultimate long-term success, you need to find a way to remove the need for willpower and stop relying on your reserves of inner strength. Because those things are going to run out, like they do for everyone. They're not. Nobody has unlimited willpower or unlimited inner strength. That's just not the way that works. So, that was what it was all about for me: learning to remove the need for those things and learning to make decisions based on logic and reason, and instead of emotion and willpower.
Mm-hmm. So you don't believe in the willpower?
No, not at all.
Interesting. Okay, well,
willpower is it's nothing. Willpower can get you through short-term things. It takes willpower to run a marathon. That's over in a few hours. Willpower is not going to get you through the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Willpower is not going to, willpower just runs out. It's not something that can go forever and ever. It's something that'll get you through short-term things. It might get you through 2 weeks.
Well,
or it might,
but
it might at the most. But willpower, no. If you're relying on willpower, then you're going to fail every time. No one has unlimited willpower. You need to put systems in place and need to change habits and change thought processes, and learn to make decisions based not on emotion and not on willpower, but on logic and reason and on reality. Basically, it's understanding and accepting reality and making decisions based on that, and not trying to fool yourself all the time, which is what we all do. So learning to see through that.
That makes sense. Well, I think our time is up for this segment. I have a lot more questions to you. So if you don't mind, we'll continue this conversation in the next segment. I have a lot more questions, trust me.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for watching. We'll be back soon.